On this episode of Humans of Web3, I had the chance to sit down with Jugal Patel, co-founder of Moo Methods. We met up at the Proxy Developer Hub, courtesy of Proxy. I'll have a link to their Twitter at the end of the video. We dive deep into what brought him into Web3 and explore his new project.
My name is Jugal Patel, and I am a human of Web3.
Join me as I explore new stories within blockchain and meet the minds behind Web3.
I had a friend in a running group, Richard Burton, actually, and he told me about this new ecosystem building up. And at the time, I was studying finance at San Francisco State, and I found economics fascinating, but I found what I was learning at school very mundane and boring, kind of this antiquated financial system that hadn't progressed much in the last 100 years, doing things kind of business as usual. And when I heard about blockchain, it felt like a lightning bolt struck of this new system that was going to increase financial inclusion and take inequities out of the current systems that exist, and really move our economic system into the future. I came into Web3 starry-eyed. I had this idealistic idea of the kinds of solutions that this new ecosystem would provide. And when I started interacting with it, I found that the reality was very far from the dream that I had in my head. It was challenging and frustrating. And honestly, after I interacted with the system for a couple months, I stepped back for about a year. Because I thought that this ecosystem was going to be something that expanded, access to finance for day-to-day folks that had been been excluded from our financial system for one reason or another. And what I have found is that the current industry that crypto is very tech-heavy. It's expensive. It's confusing. It's fragmented. And it's difficult to learn. And after that initial experience, I took a break for about, I'm gonna say like 8 to 10 months, where I wasn't interacting with the ecosystem. I wasn't engaging on wallets. I wasn't buying or trading cryptocurrencies. But what I was doing is I was still learning. And the way that I was doing that was podcasts. I listened to Bankless. I listened to an episode today before when I was on my way here. And I loved it. While the actual physical products of Web3 were frustrating, the conversations that were happening in Web3 were really intriguing. It's this combination of economics and philosophy and social mobility. This kind of how do we move society and our financial systems forward to be more inclusive for everyone. And I really enjoyed that conversation. I enjoyed that perspective. I felt like the things that people were talking about were topics that I wasn't hearing anywhere else. Evolving systems that had been in place for a really long time into something new. Questioning the way that we had always done things in our financial systems. Questioning the way that ownership is handled in the real world and figuring out how we can use technology to make that easier and to put more power into the hands of the user. So, I stopped engaging with the actual system, but I kept learning it. And one thing that was really encouraging about reaching out for help doing that is that everyone that I engaged with that was in Web3 that I asked for help with was very willing to share what they knew, very willing to take the time to tell me what tools they used. That's how I ended up hearing about the Bankless podcast first. what books they read that helped them kind of understand the evolution of financial markets and what Bitcoin was and like why that was such a transformative moment in technology and in finance. And that culture is something that always keeps me coming back for more. It's very collaborative, it's very encouraging, it's very optimistic, and I am an eternal optimist, so I really related to that ethos. And it felt good, you know, as challenging and difficult as navigating Web3 has been. I love the community. I love the people that work in this industry. You know, you have your, you know, scammers, and that's like a whole nother conversation, but the people that I've really enjoyed engaging with in Web3 are ones that are in it for a much higher purpose and reason than as a job or to make money. They want to create something that is going to change the way that things are done, change the way that things have been done, that's going to revolutionize industries and the way that we live. And it's very purpose-driven. Most people the most passionate, interested people that I find in this space are here because they want to make a difference in some way or form. Tech in general is a very homogenous space, and Web3 is even more so. There are a huge variety of reasons for why this is the case, but I think there are several approaches, right? And it's not like one or the other, it's like all of them have to be done. I think number one is education. Minorities, and by minorities I mean anyone that's not a straight white male, basically. People of color, women, LGBT, gender nonconforming, like generally speaking, these populations don't go to the same, have the same sorts of background education of like computer science or mathematics, or like the kinds of education that it requires, the kind of technical education that it requires to enter a lot of these fields to begin with, right? So there are a lot of educational programs like Girls Who Code. There are several organizations within crypto. I know there's also like people of color ones. I don't think there's any queer ones yet, but there are like queer tech groups. And what these organizations can do is help boost the education and knowledge and awareness of those populations that maybe not traditionally would have ended up in the tech space, and very more specifically the Web3 space. Now there's another aspect of Web3, and I actually heard a woman that was speaking at a Women in Web3 event in this space a couple weeks ago. She admittedly said that she couldn't speak for all women, but she said, generally speaking, women aren't as risk-taking as men are. In many situations, but specifically professionally, they were talking about. And to move into Web3, it's the riskiest space that you can be in professionally. It's very new. Most companies are going to fail. It's untested technology, and it's a big risk to take. So finding ways to support minority potential founders, finding a way to support people's transition from traditional tech into Web3, not only through education, but helping them navigate, those possible job shifts. Learn about what's happening in the ecosystem and different ways that they can contribute. And I really, it starts with the community on an individual company level. For example, when I was at the first company that I worked at in Web3, Balance, we were building a crypto wallet for Safari extensions. And it was really important for us to get more diversity in our team. So I joined a lot of, Web3, women in Web3 groups, because we really wanted to get women on our team. And yeah, just went to events, learned about the experience for women coming into Web3 or being in Web3. I speak a lot about women because I think that there aren't very many women in the Web3 space. But even, for myself, I'm gay and, I'm a person of color and all of these things. And I don't, on a personal level, I don't think that I have felt like I don't belong specifically because of that. But I will say, there is a strong bro culture in Web3. So there are times and conversations I've been a part of and groups and experiences that I've had where I felt a little on the outside because I didn't relate to that type of culture that was there, and a lot of that can lead people to being uncomfortable in the space or just thinking that this isn't for me. So I think being conscious of that, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that per se, but I think for organizations to be conscious that there is a majority culture in this space. And so when someone from a different type of culture possibly is coming in, to be as supportive and aware of that difference as possible, to make sure that maybe you're going a little out of your way to make sure that they feel included or that they feel seen or that they feel comfortable being themselves in the space. Because if I'm going to be working for an organization, I want to be able to feel comfortable being myself and feel comfortable in my skin. And that's when I'm going to do the best work if I'm working for that organization. So I think making the most conscious effort to address that disconnect that there may be with minorities coming and working in the space. I sit on the programs board of Start Out San Francisco, and Start Out is a nonprofit with the goal of supporting queer founders or founders to be with a variety of things. Our board specifically holds events for networking. So we'll have panels or group discussions on different topics regarding starting a business or the challenges that there are, the different resources that they are, and what the experience is like being a queer founder. And also it just gives people the opportunity to meet other queer founders and say, how did you do it? How did you, how did you find investors? How did you build your business? How did you, navigate the space? And outside of that, there's also an accelerator program that helps people get mentors. I'm actually part of it myself, and you can get different mentors that know marketing or branding or like finding funding. Basically every kind of aspect of the business that you would need guidance on, they have mentors for. It's been one of the most rewarding and useful tools that I've had as a founder, and just encouraging others in the community. What's been exciting about my joining Start Out is that no one else on the programs board is in Web3. I actually haven't met another person in that organization that has worked in Web3. So it's kind of fun to bring this conversation to Web3 because, as I have mentioned before, there isn't any queer organizations in Web3 that I have found yet. So it's kind of fun to kind of bridge that gap and bring that conversation to Web3, because until someone starts having these conversations, they're not going to think about it. Be like, there aren't a lot of queer people in this industry. That's interesting. I wonder why. And it's exciting to kind of help bring that bridge from traditional tech to Web3, and let's try to get some more queer representation and founders on this side, and start educating them about that. And I hope to this year host we host 4 events a year, and I'm hoping that one of those events we have is going to be Web3 focused, to kind of, because now that I've been searching, I've actually found a few queer founders in Web3 that I didn't even know were queer. But start asking around, and you find out that they are, and they just maybe art is open about it. You never know what kind of reaction you're going to get. So it's been a lot of fun working with them. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak to the experiences of other queer founders or people that work in Web3 that are queer. But it's something where it's like, it's not what I lead with, just because I don't feel like I should have to. But that is the burden and thought that you have to go through when you are not the default. You know, if you're straight, you don't have to think about that because it's just accepted. There's no hesitation for acceptance at all. So it's not something that you really have to navigate through. But if you're queer, you just never know. You know, I am out and I am proud. And I'm very fortunate that I live in San Francisco, so I don't even think about it here. But perhaps, you know, if I was living in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, it is something that I might think about. And it is something that I might have to hide for my safety or my success. And you never know who's controlling the levers, you know? Yeah, so I mean, it depends, you know, case to case, but that's been my personal experience. Mu methods, and it's a mu as in the Greek letter mu, is a network to manage identity. It's an identity protocol. And what this protocol is solving for is a few different things. Number one, recoverability of your seed phrase. Connecting different accounts. It's not chain specific, it's open source. And the last is for the storage of verified credentials. So basically, I have different information about myself that I need to use to access different platforms online, right? If I am opening a new account, every single time I want to engage with the platform, I have to open a new account, giving them my personal information, name, email, phone number. Every time I want to make a purchase, I have to expose my financial information. But what this network is going to do is that all of these credentials are going to be stored in one central location so that you're just going to have to one tap to access every platform that you engage in online, and you're not going to have to expose data that is not necessary to engage with these platforms. So Mu has a couple of different meanings. My favorite, though, is a teaching in Zen Buddhism. And the purpose of this teaching is for the student to let go of everything that they think they know about their identity in order to gain a new understanding and vision of their identity. And it's very fitting for the identity protocol we're building. Well, I have to admit, I don't know the difference between the two because this is the first time I'm a Web3 founder. I was on the founding team of my first Web3 company, but this is my first venture going it on my own, or well, not completely. I have my co-founder as well, so we're doing it together. But my experience has been nothing but excitement for what we're creating. I don't think I would be any less excited or any more excited if it were a bull market. There's several reasons for that. One, our product has nothing to do with tokenomics. It's an open source project. We're building a public good for the betterment of the entire industry to move wallets as identity forward. And it's a long-term project. So the ups and downs of the market financially don't really have any bearing on what we're creating. And I don't want to downplay like the suffering that people are going through right now, but I have never been one that had enough spare cash to invest anything significant in crypto, and that's not why I came to the industry. I didn't come to the industry because I thought I was going to make money off of trading. I never had enough money to put into trading that would have made a difference in my life. I came in because of the principles and culture of Web3 that we're, building the next internet. That's why I came. And what we're creating in our company is infrastructure, and that takes time. It's probably, if we get our network built within a year, that will be awesome. And the infrastructure that we're building is going to be game changing. And regardless of what's happening with the markets. It's kind of like when they created the Ethereum blockchain that allowed smart contracts to be built on top of it. That's how big our vision is of what we're building. Will we do it? Will we do it alone? I don't know. Somebody's going to do it though. And it's going to change the way that we interact on the internet. And that's what's exciting. So bull market or bear market, the project's important. And that's what excites me. Sure, so this is a multi-year vision. I'll give you like the whole enchilada. The first year, we're writing a technical white paper that will be displaying the research of our findings on the best methods to use for threshold signatures, the best practices to use for generating keys, and we're going to take all of this information and then build the libraries that are going to be the network. So the first step is to build a gossip protocol, and within that is going to be all the libraries that are needed to access and use the network. Once this network is built, then we're going to move into a new phase, right? The first part of the project is open source, and then once we build this network, it's a matter of migrating the ecosystem onto this new network, and then we're going to build on top of that network. So this network is also going to have the capability of storing verified credentials, which, as I had mentioned before, are all of the personal information that you need to access platforms on the internet, right? But you're no longer going to have to open a new account for every platform. Just as when you're connecting to a DApp, when you go to Facebook, when you go to your bank account, whatever that is, you're just going to one tap, sign a message in your digital ID, and it's going to give you access to that account. So the process of this is going to be building a KYC, a partnership that's integrated with our network for institutions like banks that need to know certain information about you to access and use their services. And it's also going to include CBDC integration. Now, I'm getting a little ahead of myself because the bill for defining and regulating CBDCs is still on the floor of the House in the United States right now. But I'm fairly confident, I'm saying like 90%, that by early next year, this bill will pass. And once there is regulation and definition of what CBDCs are, then we'll be able to integrate them with our digital identities as well. And any service that you access, you'll be able to use CBDC crypto to pay for it. So payments will be integrated. You won't be having to release your financial information every time you want to make a transaction. It's a huge attack vector. And then the last step is going to be API integration with all of these platforms. Because once we have the product, all the platforms are going to need a way to be able for you to press that connect button and use your digital ID to access each one of these platforms. And that's it. So within a few years, hopefully we'll get there. You can follow us at moo-methods.tech. That's our website. It will have links to our other ways to connect, my personal Twitter account, as well as our company Twitter account once it's launched. When you think of tech in general, thinking about the humanity of someone in Web3 is counterintuitive. When I think of a tech company, I don't think of the people behind it. I think of what does the technology do? What does the technology solve? Web3 is totally different from that. The humanity of Web3 is what makes it so special, and it's what makes it so exciting, and it is what has kept me coming back for more. If you're new to the space, or if you've never been to an in-person Web3 event, I highly encourage it, because that is what got me connected for the long term. It's what has given me this passion that I have never felt professionally before. And it's all about the community, and it's about the people in the community. The energy that people have for solving problems and making a difference and changing the way things have been done for the betterment of other people is what Web3 is all about. It is a very human-centered industry. It's human beings coming together to try to find solutions to improve other human beings' lives. So, and it's crazy describing a technical industry that is focused on, finance for right now. We're moving beyond that, but it's been a big focus of the last year to describe it like that. But it's truly what it is.
It's no secret that Web3 is rapidly changing. Amidst a sea of projects, a bear market, and all of the challenges that come with building, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. Protocols will come and go. Tokens will pump and crash. But at the center of it all, we're all driven by a common purpose. Jugal's story is a reminder of the excitement I felt when I first joined the Web3 community, and the belief that this new landscape can have a meaningful impact on our society. We may not know how the Web3 dream will play out, but one thing is clear. As long as there's curiosity and a desire to innovate, blockchain will remain present, along with its community of passionate individuals. Thank you to Jugal Patel for spending time with me, and a very special thanks to Proxy for providing their space for the video. If you're in San Francisco, check out their Proxy Developer Hub, a co-working space for builders in the Web3 community. I'll have their Twitter, as well as the link to Jugal's project, in the description. Be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.